Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am ManyNinjas, and right now we're doing kind of a quick, little for fun run for this retro ninja gaming. I found an interesting demo that was kind of a remake of the original Double Dragon title, and that's kind of what we're playing right now. The actual graphics of this game are kind of a redone, kind of recolorized version of the NES graphics, although they added in some of the story elements that were later properly introduced in some of the remakes like Double Dragon Advance for the Game Boy Advance, and various things that kind of appeared in the arcade title, well, the original arcade title before the NES port. So this is kind of a mishmash of a lot of different things based on the first game. Alright, let's just to cut through the intro sequence here, let's get the game started. Now, currently it has 3 game modes. The beginning is the original Double Dragon title itself, and technically it's the only complete mode. Revenge Test is a test of kind of 2 different levels from early on in Double Dragon 2, based more on the, well, it's still mixed in between the NES and the arcade, but more on the NES I personally find. And the Omega is basically just kind of a test stage or 2. As for the player select, we have Billy, Jimmy, and kind of a third gag. Instead of putting in Sunny, which was kind of a third player option in the Double Dragon 3 arcade title, it's Bimmy. Third brother, or technically fourth brother, no one ever talks about. The game itself uses Open Beats of Rage as the engine which everything runs off of. So while it's a fairly good engine, originally used as kind of a test model or something like that, using SNK graphics, namely King of Fighters graphics. In this case, the control scheme that's, at least in the initial version of this beta, is a little off here. Realistically, there are 4 different buttons there, although the actual button commands are a 6-button format, with the punch and kicks having separate buttons as well as the jump button, and there's actually a shortcut key for the hurricane kick. If you want to use a special uppercut, kind of like what I'm going to demonstrate, this, or use the knee, which, there we go, it actually requires quarter circle motions in order to get to those moves. Although they did add a shortcut for the final kick for the kick combo, which is also a quarter circle combo for motion. 1 second as I get rid of this Linda. Oh, I forgot to mention another thing they kind of threw in here is you can actually hit downed opponents. Oh, and there is one little addition that's fun, but never actually existed in any of the previous titles. Didn't demonstrate it too well. But if you hold down while jumping and using the first attack, you can do a dive kick. It's kind of weird, but it does have some uses thrown in there. Alright, let's handle this. Oh, I need to get through an angle or else I'm going to get pummeled in the attempt. Kind of like that. There is one problem with the combo system for this game. It's a little lax, which I'm going to try to demonstrate in a second. Oh. As long as you cycle your punches and kicks, you can basically keep an enemy tied up for as long as you really want. Kind of like this. Now we introduce the first little boss, which is Bobo of the Afro, not the Afro, of the Mohawk variety there. So let's see if I can get him at the right angle, can catch him at the touch of the jet. There we go. To give you an idea of what's going on, I basically have 2 buttons here being pressed. I'm not even really holding directional keys, and That's kind of how most boss fights will kind of end if you know the cycle here. It's admittedly not the most exciting thing, but it's kind of funny, if anything. Oh, the only other thing I should mention, as you probably noticed there, you can skip through the text there, but it'll have to actually, the engine will actually wait until when the text would have run out in order to continue. Also, another thing which I actually didn't notice the first time I was playing through here, health does not refill between stages, which can be kind of really annoying if you weren't doing too well in a previous stage. You'll find yourself killed fairly quickly if you accidentally get hit a few times on the next stage over. And I guess this stage, it's mostly like what it was in the original type. Oh, I can't remember the arcade type off the top of my head, but it begins out a lot the same as that and the NES port. Although, in this case, you won't be running into a skyscraper which you'll need to face off with Chin later on. Instead, they have a different boss, which, before I accidentally skipped through the intro, they were kind of hinting who was going to be next. It's actually, at least in how it was recreated, this game is actually kind of a challenging Stage 2 boss, which is going to be introduced fairly shortly, since, honestly, the first and second stages are not particularly long. Basically, it'll be one screen over, and then I'll be in the area where the boss is going to appear. This roper is surprisingly high health. There we go. I'll probably use things like the knees a lot more often, but the problem is the actual command for the knee command is forward, down, and then attack 2, which actually doesn't like coming out really well. You have to actually be really deliberate with it, or else you'll either get the opposite, which is just the straight kick here, or it'll just be a normal kick at all, so you kind of get the... More often than not, you'll get something other than what you really want here. Also, the small trick is, or the small issue is, that the knee actually has limited range. You'll kind of just stop straight forward for some strange reason partway through. The boss should be showing up any moment now. Oh, after this loom, I believe. There we go. Meet generic Jeff, which is basically a Lee Brother clone for the most part. Only... Okay, that was mistimed. The trick behind Jeff here is if you get a little too close, he will knee you, or grab you and then hit you with a knee repeatedly. But if you stay at the right distance, he won't actually be able to do much of anything. If you're just out though, he'll jump kick you each and every time. The only tricky part with him is you can't exactly get the same touch of death as you have with just about any other boss. Alright, let's go back with another round with Bimmy here. main problem with this type of enemy, since you'll actually be a reoccurring boss, is that you can't exactly... Well, that's actually a way to kill him, but you can't exactly get him into the same combo depth, because he can actually break out of your combos with the alternating hits if you just give him a little too much space. The problem is the touch of death will work on everyone else in the game. So it immediately makes the difficulty a lot easier. It's just a matter of making sure no one gets behind you so it will interrupt your combo. Now think about while I'm going through these general mooks in the bowl here, I kind of have to correct something that I did say at an earlier point. On previous videos, namely the pixel art videos where I was doing the Bobo-based animations, I probably said something along the lines that how the mustache that Bobo was usually drawn with in more recent times really was something that was invented after the fact. I kind of have to correct myself there, because when I thought about it, the actual arcade ports did have something that was more resembling a mustache person on them, which probably didn't appear too much, or it didn't appear too clearly on the NES ports, on account of the pixel limitation, well, pixel and color scheme limitations at the time. Okay, wrong angle, definitely wrong angles. You can really just kill Bobo from a distance using dive kicks, but it takes a lot longer than it really should. So if you can get him in a touch of death, you'll handle the situation a lot easier. I really do like the soundtrack for the first game, especially what they ended up doing for... Well, that shouldn't have happened. Yeah, right, just for a change of game, let's go with Jimmy. Yeah, I was saying, I really do like the soundtrack for the actual game, or the first NES game. Just generally catchy, especially with the NES versions. Although now I think about it, it's a little odd that they use the original 8-bit tune here when in other parts of the game they'll actually use remix music. I suppose whoever made this DieInFire off the top of my head just couldn't find a reasonable remix of a few of these tunes like this one. It was so easy it wasn't even funny at that point. I think with a touch of death you can realistically get away with 3 punches, then alternate a kick, and then go back to the punch sequence, and you ought to be fine with that. Yep. And the drink he goes. And there's a way to lure the Bobo here. You know, just for fun, we're gonna beat people fair and square this time. Well, as fair and square as you can, but we're gonna do this combo. And I didn't even need to use a touch of that time. Probably would have made this game a little more amusing, although it wouldn't have been as serious, is that they threw in some of the more colorful Williams that they kind of had for Double Dragon Neon. It's far from the most serious Double Dragon port or anything like that, but Neon honestly was just damn fun to play. Especially with all the colorful dialogue thrown in there. I don't know, maybe if I end up doing something like this, I can just work with the engine and 8-bit Skullmageddon would be amusing there. And on this section, the engine kind of freaks out a bit. The bow was actually supposed to... The one that was just randomly twitching was supposed to actually go all the way over. So I'll be surrounded on all sides. Ouch. That hurt a little. I can knock him off this cliff if I get the timing just right. That worked better than I thought. The game doesn't know what to do here because that enemy can't jump high enough in order to actually get to you. But realistically, you can't actually have him in that position either. Also, if you're on this stage, don't wander all the way down to the bottom. You will fall off the bridge. I didn't realize they had their own original death sound to go with them. I thought it was just one of the generic thug ones. Two of these guys, yeah, once you're facing more than one of them, it actually gets really annoying for the Jeff enemies, whatever the proper name is, I don't know. Okay, their version of Hurricane Kick is also equally invincible. Did not know that. Wrong button. Meant to be a Hurricane Kick. I'm pretty sure that block sound is actually from Super Double Dragon, aka Return of Double Dragon. It definitely isn't one of the NES soundtracks, that much I know for sure. This game is surprisingly colorful, especially since I'm not sure if it changed for the OpenBOR engine, but I remember for the original Beats of Rage engine, you were actually kind of limited to a single palette for all the actual character sprites for that matter. Both playable and enemy colors would have to fit within the 256 color limit, or really 255 plus the transparency. Which is part of the reason even for the original SNK based one, some of the characters had to share a different color set, or some altered color sets, just so they can fit it within the limit. If that still applies here, I honestly don't know. Although now that I think about it, realistically, since everything's kind of using an 8-bit color scheme anyway, so it's limited colors, you probably get away with kind of a more flexible color scheme for a bunch of the enemies, since you have less colors you really need to work with. For SNK characters, basically, could be 4 to 5 tones, depending on what it is. Probably closer to 5 or 6, depending if it's a skin tone based color. But here it's realistically 2, but the outline there. Alright. Me Bobo, aka Green Bobo, Polka Bobo, whatever you want to really look at him as. And touch of death. And this will just be a moment, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. He's suddenly a lot more talkative after you actually beat him. How that works, I don't know. This will actually be the last stage in this particular game. Since it's based more off the arcade in terms of the actual level count, there are less stages to go around. There's probably fortunate since I don't think the OpenBOR engine could probably handle the NES cave stages pretty well. Unless there have been some improvements that I'm not aware of, it doesn't do general platforming quite too well. So basically more linear stages, although you'll have some traps like what's going on here, tend to work out better. Okay, I went through. There are ways to get by the traps, but it's kind of difficult to be honest. You have to use something like the dive kick just to get by really quickly. And the reason I was kind of leaning towards the lower part of the platform is just because it's easier to sneak by, because even if you're on the upper part, you're going to get hit by the spear basically no matter what you do. At least on the bright side, the spears hit both player and enemy alike, and kind of make it fun to juggle people with. Oh, I forgot you can actually run in this game. Unfortunately for the enemies here, I gotta lure this Bobo down. This brick wall does not match the same... This is not how the thing should be in perspective, but hey, I guess they just didn't have the tiles for it. I just noticed that just now. I didn't even notice that in my original playthrough. Also, that door seems a bit more colorful than I remember. Ouch. Right, at least. Still doing pretty good health-wise, or life-wise, I believe. Still got a few continues just in case of anything. In one of my previous runs, I had it so that one of the Obos actually was the last enemy I had facing, even beyond the boss itself, because apparently, unlike the arcade games where enemies will run off screen if the boss gets killed first, they don't do that here. 2 credits. Okay, let's go back. The glory will belong to Bimmy. I need to get rid of those guys. They're actually they're costing me most. Where did that first one go? These guys are actually proving more trouble than the Bobos right now. This is not the arrangement I wanted to be facing Willy with, but we'll have to make do. In this port, Willy can use his guns, although he seldom does so. Or at least on the bright side, the bullets can hurt everybody, but it will hurt you a hell of a lot more. Also, he can block. Suddenly, I'm not doing so well. Well, at least Willy did me a favor there. Now he's screwed. That was kind of an anticlimactic way to get around it, but hey, whatever works. Going by the same plot that I had in the original or in the advanced version. There are no secrets. The secret is that the Lee twins and whoever the hell Bimmy is were in fact the reason that the whole techniques worked all along. Willie is waiting in hell for his revenge, although he never actually died, because he clearly shows up in the next game. At least in the arcade ports, they reuse Willie as the last boss. Except press start, but apparently didn't need to. Willie gets reused as the last boss. You've saved Marion this time around, only for her to get shot down in the very next game. It is the end. All is good, ladies and gentlemen. And next time on what will be a more proper retro ninja gaming setup, we're going to be... Actually, I'm not sure what we're going to be running on yet. There are still a handful of games I'm going to be experimenting with in order to see just how well it'll turn out. But I'm fairly sure it's going to be something from the Genesis library off the top of my head, but it might change between now and that actual recording, so thanks everyone for watching. If something else like a little short project like this comes up, I'll probably be putting up within the bit of January. And catch you all later.